When was the last time you paused, slowed down, and just breathe? Yes, I know things are heating up everywhere, but today I want to help you pay attention to what matters most. Yes, I'm talking about your health and your responsibilities. Welcome to this edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. We have another power-packed lineup for you today, so stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
Good day, I'm Marjorie Gordon, and this is your GIS News for Wednesday, July 19, 2023. Bilateral cooperation between Jamaica and Mexico has been strengthened with the signing of the final act of the 10th Permanent Binational Commission for both countries. The signing was witnessed by Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Tuesday in Brussels, Belgium, as both countries participated in the third EU-CELAC summit. Since its establishment in 1993, the Mexico-Jamaica Binational Commission has been instrumental in the strengthening of traditional friendship, trade, investment, and cooperation opportunities for both countries. In April this year, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade virtually hosted the 10th meeting of the Permanent Binational Commission with Mexico. Both governments reiterated their continued interest in promoting initiatives to combat the illicit traffic in arms, which fuels transnational organized crime and creates a public health issue. They also agreed on the importance of strengthening bilateral, regional, and international cooperation in addressing this occurrence and reducing armed violence in their territories. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has signaled Jamaica's support for a renewed EU-CELAC political partnership and the establishment of a permanent and structured mechanism for political engagement at the highest level between countries of both regions. The Prime Minister made his remarks in Brussels, Belgium on Tuesday during the plenary session of the third EU-CELAC summit. The two-day summit between members of the European Union and the Community of Latin America and Caribbean states ended on Tuesday with a declaration containing wide-ranging agreements on major contemporary issues confronting both regions.
The people of our countries are demanding meaningful, concrete, and urgent action. As such, we must be resolved to approach our bi-regional partnership with the pragmatism and ambition required to deliver on their behalf. Jamaica therefore looks forward to a deepened relationship between CELAC and Europe towards our mutual benefit.
In the meantime, Mr. Holness welcomed the Global Gateway Investment Agenda for Latin America and the Caribbean, which was launched by the European Union on day one of the summit. The initiative is to bring over 45 billion euros of high-quality European investment to Latin America and the Caribbean, with more than 135 projects already in the pipeline.
We look forward to the implementation of this investment agenda in Jamaica. We have, however, made significant efforts at debt reduction and are therefore hopeful that focus will be placed on de-risking investments, accessible interest rates, and technology transfers.
Several measures are in the pipeline to advance Jamaica's digital transformation journey and skills development. These were outlined by Minister with Oversight for Skills and Digital Transformation, Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon. She was speaking earlier today at the post-cabinet press briefing. Among the initiatives to come on stream before the end of the year are the hiring of a Chief Information Officer, the establishment of NERA, and a Digital Transformation Advisory Council. The Registrar General's Department, RGD, will also be producing birth certificates in Braille.
Now we talk about inclusion. Inclusion is not just a buzzword, it is real. When RGD does something like this, it shows that irrespective of who you are, we're going to respect you. And so we're going to be delivering birth certificates in Braille, and this will be done by December is the target.
Minister Maurice Dixon says the RGD will also be installing self-serve kiosks and portals to limit in-person transactions. Another initiative to be undertaken by the Heart NSDA Trust is the rollout of the Learning and Investment for Transformation LIFT program. It will engage 500 young people over 5 years.
Which will be targeting students from 5th and 6th form who have graduated from 5th and 6th form across the country, so that they can get employment. And not only employment, they're going to be doing training before that in terms of the world of work.
Minister Maurice Dixon says the students will be placed in public and private sector organizations and given a stipend. Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie has issued a stern warning that no other business should be conducted in the country's markets besides the sale of produce. He was speaking at a contract signing to rehabilitate the Hill 60 Road in Cheswick, St. Thomas yesterday. Minister McKenzie expressed his dissatisfaction with what he described as the use of markets for other than what they were intended. Speaking specifically to the Yallahs Market, he said once the lease with the Paul Bogle Foundation expires in 2024, the market would return to the vendors.
A new design is being prepared. Once the lease expires, I am expecting the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation to do what is necessary so that the market can be returned to its original use.
Mr. McKenzie had this to say for other markets with similar situations.
And all the markets that finds itself in similar positions, there are two in Westmoreland, one in Little London and one in White House. The one in Trelawney, the lease has expired and the municipality has now taken back control of that market. And once those leases have expired, the ministry is going to move to ensure that the purpose that the market was built for is undertaken.
And finally, the threat of industrial action from workers at the National Water Commission, NWC, has ended with the signing of a wage agreement between the entity and 5 unions representing the employees. The agreement comes after 8 days of negotiations at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. Portfolio Minister Pernell Charles Jr. signed the agreement Tuesday afternoon. He thanked the parties, including the Ministry of Finance and Public Service, for engaging in the process, which has resulted in an amicable resolution. Over 2,000 workers from the NWC were arrested and served 72 hours of strike notice in response to concerns about the implementation of the compensation review. The main areas of concern included the conversion methodology and the treatment of traveling officers. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Finance announced that $1.7 billion has been allocated to the NWC to continue its wage compensation review. The provision is drawn from the contingency fund and made available in the second supplementary estimates for this financial year. It was also tabled in Parliament on Tuesday. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Marjorie Gordon. Thank you for watching.
Popularly known as sugar in Jamaica, diabetes is a chronic disease that stems from the body's inability to produce the insulin hormone needed to convert sugar and starches to energy. Learn about the risk factors and how the disease can be managed in this next feature.
Diabetes is a serious chronic lifestyle disease affecting millions of people over the world and continues to increase. Diabetes affects how your body turns food into energy. It is a disease in which your blood glucose or blood sugar levels are too high, and glucose comes from the food you eat. Insulin is a hormone that helps the glucose get into your cells to give energy. Sometimes your body doesn't make enough or any at all, doesn't make any insulin, and so it doesn't use the insulin well. Glucose then stays in your blood and doesn't reach your cells. Over time, having too much glucose in your blood can cause complications. Example, situations with the kidney, heart disease, and so on. Although diabetes has no cure, there are steps you can take to manage your diabetes and stay healthy.
It is through lifestyle that we manage the risk of diabetes. Those behaviors include increased physical activity, a healthy diet, routine health checks, and strict adherence to medication. The ministry will be championing the cause of persons living with diabetes. We have updated our clinical management guidelines, which is now available on our website, and we will be working on increasing access to testing through the introduction of point-of-care testing. This methodology of testing is the gold standard for monitoring and control of diabetes. Our agency, the National Health Fund, will continue to support persons through the provision of diabetic medication and supplies, and I encourage persons with diabetes to enroll in the NHF card program to access this benefit.
The person with diabetes should really have an opportunity to sit down with a trained clinician who is able to help them to understand the concepts of diabetes self-management, education, and support. There are 4 core areas the patient must begin to understand. How and when to take medication. That's the first one. If you take insulin, then you need to know how does your insulin work and how do you eat in relation to the insulin. Then there are the people who have type 2 diabetes, which commonly start off with education on activity and just healthy nutrition. And then we add 1 of 5 classes of oral agents. And then we teach them how to make food, how to eat food. Also, we think of things like target blood pressure. Is your weight healthy, or do you need to lose a little weight? And most importantly, how do you feel? What is your quality of life? All of this is what we focus on. Also, when you get your lab work done, what is your hemoglobin A1C? The target should be 7% or less. Keep that number in your mind. Diabetes damages the feet, the kidney, and the eyes at first, and then eventually we also find it can cause coronary vascular disease too. But for foot care, the person with diabetes every day, you wash your feet, wash them properly. Dry your feet, dry between the toes. Moisturize your feet, but do not put moisturizer between the toes. Make sure that you wear cotton socks, right? If you're going to have your toes cut by somebody trained who knows how to cut them. Examine your feet every day. Do not walk barefoot. Please, please, please do not walk barefooted, because if you injure or cause trauma to the feet, you may not feel it because your diabetes has damaged the nerves to the feet. And finally, when you buy shoes that are comfortable and that you can wear without causing blisters or trauma to the feet. Now we have research that shows that I can prevent the eye damage, the kidney damage, the foot damage, and the amputations by just keeping my blood glucose under control and taking care of myself.
There's no such thing as a diabetic diet, but it's all about how much I eat, the timing of my meals. So it's your portion sizes is what is important. Now, what we do recommend is that persons eat at least 3 balanced meals per day and small snacks. Snacks usually mean smaller, more nourishing meals, which we usually recommend that it be your fruits, your vegetables, or you can also use your nuts. Each meal or snack should contain protein because we need it to be balanced as well. Each meal should contain at least your protein and your fat. And we also want them to select a variety of foods from all the food groups. So there is some recommendations about the amount of fruits that you should eat per day. We usually say 2 to 3 servings. We want you to include a variety of vegetables daily. We also want you to include more peas, beans, and nuts in your daily meals. Reduce your intake of salty and processed foods, and to reduce your intake of fats and oils and that of sugary foods and drinks. You aim for foods that have high sources of fiber, such as your whole wheat bread, whole grain rice, flour, more of your ground provisions. They will give you fiber, right? And that will slow down the rate at which your body breaks down the food, so you won't have a rapid increase in your blood sugar levels versus if you eat foods that are low in these added fibers. When you're having alcohol as a person living with diabetes is not to have it on an empty stomach, because it gives the risk of lowering your blood sugar. And also what we want you to do is that once you have diabetes, we do not really recommend the mixed drinks, so as to say, because they usually have a sweetened base. For women, it's usually you can have a drink per day, and for men is no more than 2 drinks. And what is a drink? Usually for beer, it's not more than 12 ounces. And for like a shot, it's usually a shot, which is about 1.5 ounces. And for wine, recommendation is usually about 5 ounces thereabout.
There are several researches that have shown that physical activity, when done properly, for persons who are diabetic, again you heard it, allows you to use up glucose. For children, the recommendation is at least 60 minutes, 5 days a week of moderate to vigorous activity, and it must be a combination of muscle and bone strengthening activity. That's the recommendation for our children. For adults, it's at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week to get some health benefit, meaning increase circulation, reduce stress. And for the elderly, it's at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week. If you're a diabetic patient, these are some of the activities that are very good for you. Swimming, jogging, dancing, these activities, they're not very vigorous. You maintain them at a low to moderate pace, and it's a very effective way of managing and controlling your blood glucose or your blood sugar. If you are going to start a physical activity program, that you check with your doctor before you start, because if you have a condition, if you're diabetic, hypertensive, you have any other medical condition, your doctor will determine the intensity level, the type of activities that you can do.
Persons living with diabetes mellitus have multiple psychosocial issues related to diabetes management and its complications even before COVID. And there's an entity called diabetic distress, which refers to the negative emotions such as feeling hopeless, angry, or frustrated that persons who are diagnosed with diabetes experience, especially if they lack social support. I must mention we have the mental health helpline, which is 888-639-5433, or simply remember 888-NEW-LIFE, which is a 24-hour, 7 days per week psychological support produced by psychologists. When you call this number, they can provide emotional support for you. If you are feeling any form of emotional distress, they can provide support for you, and where you need additional help, they will direct you to additional help.
We're shifting our attention now to another issue that needs our urgent attention. Human trafficking is often described as modern-day slavery. The act involves the illegal transportation of people who are forced to work or sexually exploited for commercial purposes. Learn how Jamaica is putting in the work to rid the island of traffickers and support victims.
times when persons hear trafficking, they think about sexual exploitation.
But it's much broader than that. It also involves persons being forced into labor, marriages, begging, and domestic servitude, among other acts. Human trafficking can affect anyone, regardless of gender or socioeconomic background. Any boy or girl, woman or man can be a victim of human trafficking. Manager of the Trafficking in Persons Secretariat, Shanae Russell Robinson, says in Jamaica, the two common forms of trafficking are forced labor and sex trafficking, with children being the primary victims.
Our victim mainly, sadly so, has been mostly children, meaning persons under the age of 18 years old, has been our main victims of trafficking in persons in Jamaica, as well as most of our victims are local persons, and perhaps a little over 60% are locals, and the rest is international or non-national victims.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, says it has taken note of a worrying trend where a family member, parent, or guardian is the trafficker or the one who sells a child to a third-party trafficker. The crime, known as familial trafficking, involves primarily maternal figures, and based on evidence, most local cases of this type of human trafficking involve sexual exploitation.
Another trend that we are seeing, it's developing, is that women who are supposed to be the parents of or the guardians of these children are the ones who are seemingly seeking to exploit them.
Detective Inspector Gordon says a mother was arrested and charged last year for exploitation of her daughter. Another mother was arrested and charged in June 2021 for a similar offense, with other investigations currently underway against parents or guardians of children who have told the authorities that they were exploited. The Ministry of National Security, through the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, has been raising awareness of these activities as part of efforts to curtail human trafficking in the country and sensitize the public about what the crime looks like.
The nature of human trafficking is that it continues to evolve, and it is not something that is easily, the concept of it is not easily grasped. But the basic knowledge of human trafficking, persons tend to believe that certain activities are acceptable, and because of this, they do not report. Persons tend to believe that human trafficking must involve transportation.
The Ministry of National Security has been seeing success in its fight against human trafficking. Ms. Russell Robinson says over 100 victims have been rescued since 2010. In addition, 8 traffickers were convicted within the courts. Judges have also been trained in the laws and procedures of the Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Suppression and Punishment Act.
The Act was also amended in 2013, 2018, and just recently, 2021. So these are measures that we have been put in place to ensure that Jamaica is aligned with international best practices and to ensure that we are keeping abreast of the changing times, because traffickers are also constantly evolving their methods.
Ms. Russell Robinson says while the mandate of the task force is to catch perpetrators, the focus is also to protect victims of trafficking, as well as carry out measures to reduce such incidents locally. A critical aspect of the NATFATIP's mandate is the reintegration of victims into society. The support is a priority based on the psychological impact of the ordeal on victims.
After you've come out of a life of trafficking in persons, you are devastated, you are traumatized, and you will need the assistance of persons as well as your family members and government and other stakeholders to assist you in getting back to a normal life.
Systems in place to offer assistance include a government-operated shelter for victims of trafficking, a reintegration program, assistance with educational expenses and job opportunities, as well as training and other extracurricular skills. There is also assistance with immigration documents such as passport and other forms of ID if the victim is a non-national. This is in addition to psychosocial counseling by the Victim Services Division of the Ministry of Justice and the Child Protection and Family Services Agency.
This is long-term counseling, so it's not just counseling for a short term, because some victims, they suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and a whole host of other medical conditions. So we offer those services to help them to cope within society. And most importantly, depending on the circumstances that would have led them into a life of trafficking, we want to ensure that we prevent them from getting back into those circumstances.
In July 2021, the ministry commemorated World Day Against Trafficking in Persons with a focus on hearing from victims. Ms. Russell Robinson says survivors are key stakeholders in the fight against human trafficking. Their experiences, she says, play a critical role in establishing effective measures to prevent the crime, as well as to identify and rescue victims and provide the support needed for their rehabilitation.
It is best to get first-hand information from victims on how we can assist them and if our guidelines and policies in place are up to standard and efficient to assist victims.
With all hands on deck, we can fight human trafficking.
Please do your due diligence. Always exercise care and caution when you're conducting your business. Be wise, open your eyes, spot them, stop them, and report them.
If you suspect or know that someone is being trafficked, or if you are a victim of human trafficking, call the nearest police station or the police emergency numbers 311, 811, or 119 and make a report. You may also send an email to tip.ocid@jcf.gov.jm or call the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime CTOC at 876-967-1389.
The heat is on this summer and we want to help you stay healthy. Here are 5 summer tips you can use to protect yourself and your family. Use sunscreen with a sun protection factor SPF of 30 or higher to protect your skin from harmful sun rays. The sunscreen should also be water resistant for those days at the beach, and it should be reapplied after every 2 hours or as directed. Hydration is key to staying cool and fueled during the summer. Consume water and drink beverages that contain electrolytes such as sodium and potassium. These beverages include low-calorie sports drinks or coconut water. You should also consume foods for hydration such as cucumbers, tomatoes, and watermelons. Have you ever heard of a chilled spa towel? This is an easy do-it-yourself idea where you keep a cool towel in your refrigerator for when you need it. You can also add your favorite drops of essential oil to the mix when making one. Now cool shades. Eyewear are not just fashionable pieces for the summer. Your eyewear should have 100% ultraviolet UV protection against the harmful rays of the sun. So look for the 100% UV label the next time you choose a pair of sunglasses. Wear a hat to give you shade when venturing outdoors this summer. The hat should also provide maximum coverage for your head, ears, face, and neck. We hope you will use these tips to stay safe during the summer months. Remember to hydrate and protect yourself from the sun this summer. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another edition of Jamaica Magazine. Stay informed and find more content like this on our website at jis.gov.jm. Don't forget to send us your feedback on today's show or any of our programs via email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay cool.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.